Hi and welcome to my video. If you're something like me, then your old Merc has probably just failed its MOT on its rusty brake lines at the back. That's probably why you're watching this. And you've probably also discovered that it is a hideous job to replace the brake lines thoroughly, because the brake lines are one of the first things on the body shell when the car is built. And as such, they run underneath the fuel tanks, they run underneath the prop shaft, underneath the exhaust, underneath all the engine undertrays, and they are a right pig to change. I'm going to have a go at doing this by just replacing the rear sections of the brake pipes. This is what you're up against. Down in this wheel arch, you see the corrosion here, and the brake pipes run underneath the subframe. Very difficult to see, but all the way. So there's part of the brake lines here, and they run all the way along the back behind the subframe. They're very, very difficult to replace. And I'm going to have a go at doing this a slightly easier way. I haven't done it before, but I think I'm going to have success here. So what I've done so far is I've jacked the car up, I've got it off the ground, I've unhooked the rubbers that are holding the exhaust silencer onto the car, and I've allowed the exhaust to drop slightly, and I've supported it so it doesn't damage the rest of the exhaust. And I have just taken out the subframe mounting bolt here and the subframe bolt mounting here, and the other side of the car, if I just go around here, the other side of the car, I've done exactly the same, but I've left the bolts in so that they just hold the subframe up. The bolts on both of these subframe mounts are still in, but only on a few threads. Underneath the car, I have a jack supporting the subframe. Okay, yeah, I'm a bit of a hillbilly, but it's the subframe can't drop very far, because although this spring is pushing the subframe arm downwards, this shock absorber will stop it moving too far. So in preparation for dropping the subframe, this is the rear tray of the car, and I've just undone the two bolts securing it there and there. I haven't taken it right off, but that just gives it enough flex to move as I drop the subframe down. So I'm going to release the jack slowly, and what I'm trying to do is to get a little bit more room in here so that I can cut these brake pipes and put a join in and just replace this back section here. The brake pipes are in great condition from here forwards. That's towards the front of the car, and I'm going to try and join them somewhere around here and replace them with copper. So here we go. This is the jack coming down now, and as I wind the jack down by hand, you can see that gap. There we go. There's a subframe just starting to drop down. There he goes. You see that gap is increasing there, and with every turn of the jack I'm getting a little bit more space here. So I'm going to put the phone down and I will come back to you in just a moment. All right, here we are, a couple of minutes later, and as you can see, I can get my whole hand in that gap now, which should make it a little bit easier to cut these brake lines and replace them. This is what I'm going to use. I've bought some copper pipe here. I'm not endorsing these products in any way, but this is just what I've bought for it. There's the copper pipe. This is a 25-foot roll. This came off eBay and was £8.70. And these are two little joiners that I've bought to do the job. These also came off eBay, and these were at £3.50 for the pair. And this is my trusty brake pipe flaring kit. That's what it is. I've got to thank Auntie Hester and Uncle Angus for a Christmas present many years ago, but that's what's inside it. And I've been told, don't buy the cheap ones, get a decent one, because the cheap ones you'll struggle to get a good flare on steel. Remember, we've got to flare some steel pipe here. I've never flared steel before. Normally I'd just replace a whole brake line, but it's very difficult to on this car, so I'm going to be attempting to flare the steel brake pipe. And I've been having a bit of practice on an old bit of brake pipe that I've pulled off another car, and there is a if you can see that, there is a flare that I've made with this kit in the steel, and as you can see, it's very successful. Nice, neat, clean flare. So I'm going to put the phone down and have a go at threading the new brake pipe through, and I'll catch up with you in just a moment. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these brake lines just about here somewhere, and crimp the ends over, so that'll give me a chance to get the rest of the rusty brake pipes out without losing too much fluid. And these are my weapons of choice. I'm going to do that right now. Well, there we go. I've stripped out, I've cut the brake pipes. They're dripping ever so slightly. Before I started, I did top up the reservoir under the bonnet, but now I'm going to strip out the remaining rusty brake pipes all the way down to the unions here. Okay, so here we are. I've stripped out the remaining brake pipes that run across that were running across the back of the car, and I've now just run a new copper brake pipe, just threaded loosely from the other side. The whole coil is still the other side of the car, but I've run this through, and before I ran it through, I slipped one of the unions on, and I've made the flare at the end of it. So the next thing I'm going to do is that far brake pipe that I've cut here. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut it off neatly with my little pipe cutting tool, which is this little fella, which just about cut a steel pipe, and then I'm going to make a flare at the end of that. And obviously, before I put the flare at the end of it, I'm going to slip the union on as well. So I'll come back to you when I've done that. Right, so I've cut the brake pipe off. I've got a nice clean cut at the end, and back in the wheel arch here, I have, if I can just shine a torch on that, there's my brake pipe flaring tool. And I've got that on the end of the pipe, and I have remembered to drop the fitting onto the pipe first. There it is, just behind, to drop the fitting onto the pipe first, because you can't do it afterwards. Right, I'll come back to you after I've done the flare. So there's my brake pipe with its new flare and the fitting on it, and there's the other end, and all I really need to do now is to hook them up together with that in the middle. And then and clip the brake pipe in and put a flare on the other end. I'm going to do that, and then I'm also going to make the flare for the second brake pipe, because there are two brake pipes running front to back, and then I'll get back to you. So you can see what I've been up to. There's the first union all in, and the first pipe run across the back of the car. And that's just hanging loosely the other end now, and I'm just here on the flaring tool putting the flare on the second pipe, and yes, I have remembered to put the fitting onto the pipe first. There it is, and there we are. I've just done that second flare and fitted the second brake pipe. There's the two unions there, and all that remains to do to finish the job is to put a flare on the ends where the flexi pipes go. Now the issue I've got is I've ordered some flexi pipes and they haven't turned up yet, so I can't show you putting a flare on and fitting the flexi pipes. But I'm assuming that if you've read this far, that you'll know how to put a flare on a brake pipe. You've just seen me do it, and it's just a case of putting one on the other end and then fitting the flexi pipes. So there we are. In a moment, I'll be jacking up the rear subframe and putting these two bolts back in, that one here and the one just behind here, and remembering to tighten up the other side, of course, as well, and hang the exhaust back on. But I reckon that's a lot easier than stripping off the entire bottom of the car just to replace the entire brake lines. It's a nice easy way of just putting a joint in where you can just about reach it. Okay, thank you for watching.